conversations. Let's have real conversations.
Get ready to stir it up.
Life events and everything in between. Let's go.
Get ready to stir it up.
No capping. If guests got you covered right up.
Get ready to stir it up. Stir it up.
Come on.
Get ready to stir it up.
Welcome to Stir It Up. Today, my guest is Professor Joseph Osafo. I'll do a quick introduction for Prof. So Prof is a clinical psychologist, and he's also one of the, he's a suicidologist, right? He's also a theologian. He's engaged in a lot of cutting-edge research and has written over 85 publications in different journals across the continent. So well done on that.
Thank you.
He's a consultant in several schools, helping uplift education and support systems for educating people in psychology. And he's the director at the Center of Aging Studies. That was an interesting one for me. Do you want to tell us what that means?
Yeah, so you see, the center focuses on persons who are 60 years and beyond. And so remember, by the time you turn 60, you're retired. And that is the UN definition of older persons, 60 years and beyond. So what the center does is to be concerned with, research about them, advocacy, about social wellness, their mental health, and anything at all you can talk about or think about aging. And it's the only center for aging or dedicated for aging the whole of Ghana, the whole of West Africa, and arguably the whole of Africa.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Interesting. So you are building all the needed case studies for...
A lot of research is ongoing. A lot of activities and programs are ongoing. For example, we still have the bill on the aged in Ghana, where the Ghana government should have a policy about the aged. Elsewhere in the world, the aged don't pay to board on a bus. They are senior citizens. Why do you have to just, pay to board?
You're going down a rabbit hole.
Oh, goodness.
Anyway.
Yeah.
So in our series on deep emotions, primary and secondary emotions, Prof and I are going to be going into another conversation. We know how people have these deep feelings of pleasure and satisfaction that you derive from your own achievements. And these achievements will normally give you what you call a sense of pride. And people admire you for the things that you're doing well, right? And then you're also kind of conscious of your own dignity as a person. And all those constitutes a certain level of pride that you have. And then on the flip side, there is, someone sees themselves as better than other people and treats other people very differently. So today, you and I are going to be talking about pride and arrogance and kind of looking at what the distinctions are, where they intersect, where one stops and one starts, or where, they kind of, where there's overlap and so on. And we're going to talk a little bit also about the positives and how we can amplify the positive aspects of these emotions. And then we will highlight the green monster side of it and how we navigate those aspects of it. So thank you for coming. So I'll dig in straight away. But just before we get into those emotions, I think maybe we should start a bit with the halo effect of emotions, right? What are emotions?
So emotions are generally drives in us, These drives are, if you like, what we call feelings that move us, they motivate us, they push us to work, to talk, to engage, and to be part of any activity. They are drives. And all of us have drives in us. You can imagine if you don't have any feeling about yourself and feeling about others and feeling about what is happening around you. In fact, if you don't get a feeling or a certain kind of emotion or feeling in your body about the fact that you stepped on a sharp object, you could bleed to death. So a certain message is sent through the nerves to your brain, and this can happen in just millisecond, and then you take your legs off that pricking, discomforting experience. So emotions are drives, but they serve particular purposes. Emotions can define, for example, the kind of relationship that you can see and sense between you and someone. Emotions can help you detect that I think something is wrong. And that's why he's not talking to me. I think that I did something or he did something, or there is something we have to still sit down and address. There's an issue. So emotions can help you detect that something is not going on well between you and someone. So emotions help us to really detect the color of our relationship. How far are we doing on the emotional radar? Is it okay? Are there issues that we have to address? We have to work on. They can also help you to really understand your own self. What is it that makes you tickle at the slightest provocation? I mean, what is it about you? Why are you so super sensitive? Or what do you call hypersensitivity? What is it? Why can't you manage cases and issues such as this, whereas others wouldn't bother much about a particular issue that is eating you up? Okay, so they can also help you understand your own self. And then emotions can also help you to appreciate nature. You can get to a particular space, and then the awe, the aesthetics, the beauty in nature, it sparks some kind of awe in you. Wow, this is amazing. This is good. So you can really appreciate nature. Beyond that, emotions help you to enjoy pleasure. Pleasure. That's why, something happens, maybe you got a new phone, you fell in love.
You got some money.
Have you fallen in love before?
Have I fallen in love before? Yes.
How did you feel?
Of course I have.
How did you
feel? Feels
feel?
great.
Right.
Yeah.
So the whole night, you just, someone will say,
daydream.
Oh my goodness. You got up in the morning, you go to
All
to
you
work.
can do is, it's like you're floating on ice.
You just, oh, what a world. And so at least emotions can help you.
You can't be irritated.
Oh goodness, you don't care what happens. Let them say whatever you want to say. It's okay, you're fine. The world for a moment can stop. Everybody can die.
And you'll be good.
You're good.
Yeah.
That's so you can see that genuinely emotions are capital.
They're capital.
Yes.
Emotions are capital.
Yes. They are resources. But emotions also can be liabilities. So if we flip it the other way, we see a resource. If you flip it the other way, you see a liability. So how do we get, of course, we don't want the liabilities, How do we make sure we get the capital, the resource out of our emotions for our own lives, for our relationship, for our engagement, for meaningful engagement with the world? That's where the knowledge on how to use your emotions and use it well, that's where this whole science of emotional intelligence steps in. The ability to know your own emotions and the ability to know another person's emotions and make sure you navigate through this very thin wall
Or complex maze.
To say, okay, that's fine. I think that I need to work on this. I need to work on that. I think that he's angry. It's okay. I can manage it. That's wisdom. That's emotional intelligence. I think that in this matter, this is how I should approach it. I should not make him feel that I'm superior than him or her. In this matter, I think that anger is not the right way to approach it. I must be calm. That's emotional intelligence. So emotions are very good. And let me put it on record that emotions are not bad. We've been raised in a culture that condemns emotions. When somebody is sad and is crying, stop crying, especially if you're a man. You'd have heard in the Akan Palace, Bemensu, to where the man should not cry. And other ethno-philosophical themes and, idioms that do present to us, especially men, that if you become emotional, it's bad. But if you're a woman, it's okay to just get over, just feel the pain and rule and cry and wail and refuse to be okay. I mean, if you're a woman,
refuse
it's fine.
to be consoled, it's okay.
It's okay. As a woman, I like to cry. But if it's a man, if it's not crying, hey, stop it. Don't do that. So there's some sort of cultural engineering on how emotions are expressed. And I can tell you, I've lived in this culture. This is where I was born, raised. This is a culture where self-assertion, that is to say, that you confidently, carrying yourself is equated to being arrogant. I've seen that. Oh, he's too full of himself. Because you are assertive. And assertion simply means that you just want to tell people that, hey, this is how far you can go.
This is your boundary.
Exactly. Yeah. You understand, you respect people, but hey, you can get beyond a certain level of my convenience. Yeah. I'm going to put you at where you belong. Yeah, he doesn't respect. She doesn't respect. Hey, it's too arrogant. Yeah. That kind of thing. So this is a culture we have not been raised to express our emotions in a manner that makes us feel that there is dignity in being a human being, and there is still dignity in even expressing emotions and expressing it well.
It's interesting you say that, because one of the reasons that my thinking on dedicating a whole season to emotions was because I find that we are not taught how to navigate several emotions from a cultural perspective, right? We feel like it's a bad thing to feel shame or guilt. But the truth is, in as much as it has its negative implications, there are also positives to it, right? Anger. There's a certain way you can express anger that is also preserving you. Fear. Fear has a protective aspects to it as an emotion, right? And so it's interesting that you say what you say. So this conversation is actually, hopefully, will serve to kind of help people understand that, yes, this might be overall perceived as a negative emotion, but there's certain parts of it that can actually be good for you if you express it right and you kind of manage yourself right. So hopefully we get to that.
I hope so.
You hope so. Okay, so into the first question about if you were to think about pride and arrogance, what would be the difference for you?
So first and foremost, maybe let me start from arrogance.
Okay.
Now, arrogance is always about attempting to assert yourself as superior over others. So, and don't forget, it is a social emotion. Just say it's a social emotion. You can appreciate its power in the midst of relationships.
Okay.
Okay, so that's a social emotion. It's an emotion that you can express and you can feel when you are you are relating with others. And so
you can't be arrogant all by yourself.
No.
You need other people to be able to.
You can be arrogant as far as you can go by your own self.
Okay.
But nobody has a problem with you. Maybe the trees and the animals.
The trees and the cameras.
And the cameras. I mean, they can, but nobody bothers. I mean, it's okay. Now, it becomes a problem when interpersonal dynamics set.
Understood.
Yes. And the reason is very simple, because you see, human beings are not islands. Humanity is a community. People don't exist in a vacuum. People relate. And whether you are rich or poor, knowledgeable or ignorant, beautiful or ugly, wicked or empathic, all of these things I mentioned, virtues and vices, occur in a human dynamic relationship. So when you are arrogant, you want to tell others that I'm superior than you. Okay. Now let's look at pride. Now pride can be seen from a very dynamic perspective. If I were to be talking about pride from a theological perspective, I will start from the way the Bible presents a human being. So the Bible presents a human being or human beings as depraved, right? They are evil, they are sinners. And so in the light of that, pride from that perspective is seen as sinful. It's the expression of the self beyond others. That's where you will see pride. But if we put pride in a generalist perspective, a little bit of the theological, a little bit of the psychological, a little bit of the anthropological, you will see that pride is bigger than that. So pride is that sense of self-worth you have.
I have pride in my work.
Exactly.
I have pride in my children.
Exactly. I have pride in the fact that I've been able to achieve something. I'm a wife. I'm a mother. And I'm a daughter. And yet I'm still schooling.
And
I'm working. And I have a good marriage. I'm proud of myself. It's my achievement. Oftentimes people are proud about their achievements. They are proud about what they have been able to do. They are proud about how they handle a particular situation. They are proud about even their nation, where they are coming from. I'm proud that these are my parents. I had the best of, parenting, and I'm proud of them. And you have often heard this word in local usage or everyday parlance. I'm proud of myself. I'm proud of it. That is not used negatively.
It's used as an affirmation.
As an affirmation for a certain level of achievement of what the person has been able to get to in life, or how the person has been able to manage a situation. In that sense, pride is never assessed as a virtue, as a vice within the dynamics of a human relationship.
Yes.
But it's seen as something positive. For example, there's something we call the dignity of self or self-respect. Yeah. That's pride. For example, you went to the market and then somebody who was clearly at fault almost hit you by the vehicle, with his vehicle. And then he rather got angry, got down from the vehicle and began insulting you. Now, if you have a dignity of yourself, you can walk away. You wouldn't say anything. If you've ever heard this particular statement, and I put it in Akana and try and put it in English, he says, say, Ujare, number for a one toma. The word, if you were washing down and then the mentally unstable pull your dress off you, you would not pursue him. The guy is not well. And in your pursuit, you're already naked.
You would seem like you were mentally imbalanced.
Goodness. So it's like, how is this?
Yeah.
Can't you see there's somebody who is mentally challenged? Why is he pursuing after him or her?
Yeah.
So that you can have a positive pride.
Yeah.
Which is the confidence you have in yourself, which is the respect you have in yourself, which is why you don't want to fight with your husband, with your wife, with your friend, why you don't want to pick up any battles with people, why you walk away sometimes when you are very much angry, you are provoked, and still you don't react. That's positive pride. You have a dignity for yourself. You don't want to get in there. And so pride can be seen from that light. But once pride steps into the space of interpersonal relationship, and then your self-dignity is elevated over the other, you have now
gone into the sphere of arrogance.
you know that then, my girl, you have just embraced arrogance. There's a very thin line between pride and arrogance. And so sometimes when you hear someone who has a superior sense of self-respect, you can advise him that I like that is good, but be careful. Because he can, in the midst of others, he can over-assert himself. He can think about himself as highly. And you see, if you are a student of the Bible, Paul said, don't think of yourself as highly above others. That's the thing Paul wanted to avoid. You can think of yourself high, no problem. He said, highly above others. So I can think of myself high, that, I thank God that I'm able to manage some emotions. That's good. But as soon as I look at that,
And there's comparison.
and there's comparison in relation to others, and then the comparison begins to move to the next level, which is to look down on others, then there's a problem. I've just sunk into the abyss of arrogance.
Understood. Let's talk a little bit more about healthy pride. And let's contextualize it in the workplace. Could you share some scenarios of where we could demonstrate healthy pride within the workplace?
Okay, that's a very important question. So let's start from a scenario. Miss X gets a job, starts working 2 weeks after receiving the letter of appointment, gets into her office, meets Mr. M, who introduces her to the job. I mean, what be expected of you, what we are looking forward for you to do. And then she embraces the collegiality at the workplace and starts. Mm-hmm. She closes from work. The next day she's at work. And then Mr. X or Mr. M comes around. Oh, I want to know you. I want to know you very well. Since you came here, I've been thinking about you. I'm wondering.
How many days has she been there?
Just about 3 days. And he says he's been thinking about her. And then Miss X says, oh, thank you very much. Thanks for thinking about me. But I just want to put on record that I would not be available for certain engagements. She knows what she's talking about. Then Mr. X goes and says, I think she feels she's quite proud. She just came here. I'll be a little bit of compromise to say, oh, okay, where can we meet? Look at the way she just spoke to me. I don't know. She's proud. That kind of pride is to announce to Mr. X that I'm not that kind of girl. It will be seen as arrogance, that this is not good, but it's a healthy pride. That I just want him to know that I'm not that cheap, I'm not available for certain things, and I know where this is heading towards.
So would you say that people who are quick to set boundaries are often perceived as being proud?
They are often seen as arrogant, proud,
difficult,
disrespectful, difficult,
rigid,
incorrigible. Give me all that. It's not a mix of the words. But you see, that's the thing. You have your sense of dignity. Set healthy boundaries right from the outset. And don't allow people to define certain virtues for you. If you know the virtues, you don't allow people to know. The virtue is that I came here to work. So let me work. It's time to work. This is not time to be doing this kind of things. So boss, with all due respect, could you get to your office? And he said, do you know who you are talking to? He said, I know you very much. You are my boss. But currently, working time.
But does our workplace allow for those things? And I ask this very cautiously, right? I find that a lot of workplaces in our part of the world, like you rightly said, you know, there are these subtle requests or subtle conversations, right? And we often don't have the structures in place that protect people, right? And so what then happens is a lot of people feel like they need to compromise. And I think culturally as well, a lot of leaders have a certain sense of power that make them feel entitled. And then there's also the quick, or, you know, people are quick to be punished, or there is, what's the word? You know, they come under strict scrutiny, and there's a lot of fear in the workplace. So our current workplace structures, do they support people, you know, employees who are not at the top of the food chain to set those kinds of healthy boundaries? Have I opened up a can of worms?
Maybe more than worms. But again, let's look at it from this angle. If you live in a context where there seems to be restrictions on opportunities, abuse is inevitable.
True.
And that's where we find ourselves. The spaces that should open up for others to get a job are restricted.
Yeah.
We don't have much of such spaces. And so we have only a few, and several other persons are competing for that particular, for just those few spaces. And when that happens, the law of self-preservation
Kicks in.
So then I get in there and say, well, I have to do anything that should help me to survive. I don't care what happens. I'm ready to be abused. And
Take me.
Whatever they do, let them do it. I must survive. The second challenge is the preponderance of what we call patriarchy, or what you call power dynamics. This is a very patriarchal setting, a setting where those who have power dictate the norms. They set the rules. They tell you what to do and what not to do, when to sleep and when to wake up. Then again, and in such settings, people become overly sensitive of the power dynamics. So she knows that I'm using she because oftentimes women happen to be the victims.
But I must say, in recent times, there are a lot of young girls who are not experiencing this form of abuse from just men, but from also older women in power, right? And then there are also younger guys who are also having these experiences. And I'm sure in your line of work, you experience lots of that, right? And that's so maybe let's be balanced in having...
Yes,
but yeah,
yes, exactly. So she, he, them. Everyone is experiencing these power dynamics will make those who often will experience this kind of abuses to be threatened, and so will say, let me hold back and endure. What kind of endurance is that? So this is when we talk about endurance. As psychologists, you have to be careful.
Yeah.
People are enduring what they should not endure.
Yes.
They actually are being abused, but they feel like there is an endurance for a season. So the current workspace is definitely very volatile, and it's open for abuse of all kinds. And again, young ladies, young men, greenhorns, those who have just gotten to the places, and sometimes, as you said, there are older women who feel a bit scared. That's another motion we're talking about, and so maybe afraid about who is this confident young woman down there, and very assertive, very confident, tells you the truth, but very respectful. If she can help you, I will.
Competent, capable, work ethic is up
can
there.
you help me do this? Mom, I'm sorry, I can't. But can you give me your time? I can make some time tomorrow for you. How is that? She's too forward. I mean, now you don't talk like that. Take your time. So a lot of young ladies and young men, and I mean others who are young in this field, know that these things do happen. And they are we see them in our places. So even if you want to express the pride, you are cautious, because you could easily misconstrued and misrepresented that you don't respect. And this is a culture where people want you to control. They want you to just bend every rule to serve their demands. Whether it goes against your ethics, your values, and whatever, they don't care. And you know that values are a compass for us. My values can tell me what I want and what I don't want, and the reason why I don't want to bow to this particular demand and request. Because I have value. We should simply respect people when they have values. But no.
And I guess what's interesting is there's an element of, in the workplace, there are certain things we ask of our people that we probably wouldn't even ask of our children. And so, I mean, the other day I was passing a joke that I have 2 commanders in my house. My kids are teenagers. In the workplace as well, you're dealing with adults. You're not even dealing with teenagers. So in the same vein, there's a need to be able to allow people to operate within certain, confines, and allow them to also make decisions for themselves, assert themselves, and even teach people to be independent within the workspace. I'm not sure. Are we ready for that? Where people can be assertive, where people can create boundaries. Are we ready for that?
I don't think we're ready. Maybe the Millennium and the Gen Z generation, and maybe the Alpha generation, can show us something else. But let's look at it from this angle as well. And that's a very revealing question. If you cannot allow someone to assertively express themselves and to express their sense of dignity as a human being, it smacks of your own level of ignorance and also lack of understanding about the human condition. All of us, including you, the one who is seeking to be respected, you want it. There's a need in you. That's why you want to be respected. Now, I'd like to just flip the coin and place yourself in the person's situation and see how he or she also feels. Whatever you think is good for you
must be good for others.
Must be good for others. Because you're not more human than the other person.
Understood.
And people don't understand this. So one is that this deep sense of ignorance that people use the working space as a place to bully others. But the working space should be a place of dignity, should be a place of innovation. It should be a place of,
growth, development.
You conversing and you're bringing the best out. The people are growing.
Yeah.
It should be a place to challenge others healthily so they can do something better.
Yeah.
We don't see it like that. People use the working space to control. They used to kill. They used to just, block others from achieving what they should achieve. I was talking to managers not too long ago, and I told them, that if you're a manager and you don't see yourself as a leader, you got it all wrong. Because any leader, any manager who has this sense of leadership must court the interests of young ones and others to challenge what they have, because life is about growth.
Understood.
Is development. We're going forward. What used to be in 1920 is not what is happening now. Even if it's the same, it might have changed its phases of manifestation.
Yeah.
And so you have to understand that 1930 way of thinking is not 2024.
Absolutely.
So people should simply respect others. The person who is working in the office is a full grown-up man or woman and has other dependents. Could be a husband, could be a wife, could be a first son, could be a third, could be a fourth. Once you understand that people can make decisions for which reason you hire them to work, they are human beings. And they deserve to be allowed to feel that sense of pride. Not arrogance, that sense of pride, that dignity that I'm a human being and I deserve the best.
Understood. Let's go in a bit into arrogance. You know, growing up, there's always the sense that, you know, when your parents beat you, you have to cry. Even if it's not paining you.
Why you beating up?
Me? Hey, yes. I always tell the story with my dad. My dad was very strict, right? And so my mom did beat me to that point, right? When I lived with her, and my dad also did beat me, but I lived with my dad much longer.
Right.
But by the time I was like 13, 14, I promised myself my dad would never beat me again.
Right.
Because I won't do what you do and so what I will do for you to come and stress me out, I won't do it, right? But I remember there will be times when my dad would beat you, and the fact that you were not crying in itself would be an irritation to him. Hey! Like, wunsu! You know, and it was almost as if you were being proud. You were being arrogant, right? So there's an element of pride and arrogance being negative, destructive things. And this, your arrogance, it will lead you down a wrong path. It will lead you down a wrong path. That's what you would hear. Is it always destructive? Is arrogance always destructive? Does it always lead down a destructive path?
Okay, so my mom used to use
You're telling family stories today.
a very dry towel. You know, this kind of towels you guys used today, those are not the towels we used to.
They were hard.
Those were like heights, animal heights. And when they are dry, they are as hard as a cane or something. And then she will pretend she's not paying attention to what you're doing. Then will just hit you and you felt it. So at a point, I thought I developed a very tough skin, because I realized that when they hit me and I cry, that's like, so I thought, like, how about if I don't cry? I mean, like, as a little boy, if I don't cry, it's okay. I mean, I cannot. Then, so let's start from there. The expression of a certain sorrowful emotion has always been correlated erroneously.
With humility.
Exactly. Erroneously. With certain sense of humility and
Remorse.
change or remorse. But it's not so. Now, people can pretend, the human behavior is so complex. People can pretend that they are in pain, that they are dying, that you are killing them, but they actually are just making that up so that they are off from the hook. And so that's why some of us and other scholars thought that using punitive measures to correct behavior hasn't worked.
It never works.
Yeah. And that it's better to perhaps add what we call reinforcement contingencies.
What are those?
Reinforcements, where you withdrew certain things, what the person desired, you withdrew. I mean, your son loves watching the cartoons and he hasn't completed his homework. All right, finish up and come to it. Okay, he gets there, finishes up, and then he comes over. He's okay. As long as mommy says I can watch television when I'm done with my homework, I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
That also works.
Yeah.
Okay, so what is happening is that this kind of behaviors over the period when you are whipped up and then we want you to cry. And if you don't cry, say, he's arrogant. And then we start using all kinds of words, sometimes almost cursing words. You will suffer. It will lead you on a very bad path. You are not heading towards anywhere. All kinds of negative, words. I think is also expression of some lack of knowledge on a few things. And don't forget that the sense of psychological well-being didn't catch up with us as a people over a period of time. And so a lot of what we went through in the past, although there is some folk wisdom in some of the things that we went through, some of them were actually not what one would have expected, one is expecting. So if you saw a woman who is married and then in the hands of an abusive husband, hitting, using very disparaging words, insulting and mishandling her, then one day she marshals all her energies, stands straight, looks into this man's eyes and says, look, stop this stupid behavior. Stop it. That is a healthy arrogance. That kind of arrogance is to tell the one who is abusive that I'm not going to put my dignity on the ground again. I'm not going to allow you. Stop it. I won't allow you. So sometimes arrogance can be positive. It depends on the context. You cannot allow somebody to be abused and then you say, hey, you should have just walked away when it's been 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and especially when a life-threatening situation
It's at stake.
is at stake. You cannot tell the person that the person must be encouraged that you have to. But there's a caution there that I must quickly add. You see, in forensic sciences, you will not stand in front of someone who doesn't have control of his emotions and who can be very aggressive and display rage and tell the person, to hell with you, you can't do fuck all. You'll be killed.
Understood.
Yeah, the person can harm you. It's better to move away from such a person. You could use a third party to just communicate with the person, but you will not want to. It's just to preserve and protect yourself. So let's put on record that some level of arrogance is important. It's important, especially when you are dealing with people who are abusive, when you are dealing with bullies. When you are dealing with bullies, some level of arrogance is good for your own self-esteem because they can break you.
Let's bring it into the context of relationships, to different relationships, and talk a bit about how pride affects some dynamics. So maybe let's start off with friendships. How would pride, for example, impact a friendship? Both positively and negatively.
So let's look at it. Let's look at the positive side of how pride influences. You know, if you are positively proud, you exude a certain sense of confidence that others may want to emulate. They want to They want to see you as a role model. And I have seen this in young people who tell you, I like your confidence. You are confident and respectful. That's actually pride you're talking about. It's positive pride. And then they will tell you, I want to be like that. I want to be able to express myself, but respectfully. I want to be able to manage my emotions in the midst of turbulence. And somebody said a very disparaging thing about me, and yet I'm still in shape. I'm not bothered. And then he approached me and said, why weren't you bothered? I said, that's his opinion. And then he nodded. He said, I said, yeah. Then he asked me, and that was an interesting engagement for me with that young man. He said, what is an opinion? And then I said, an opinion is any narrative somebody holds about you. The narrative can be true, the narrative can be false. But in this, what you just saw is a wrong opinion, so I'm not going to respond. And then he asked the next question, why won't you respond? I say, I choose to. It's a choice. You can also respond. So first is that if you are positively proud, you exude that kind of confidence. And I can tell you, people have that kind of intuitive sense of something good about you. They have it. They feel, oh, but you're confident. They feel it, right? The second thing is that it attracts others. They want to be in your space. You will see others coming into your space, and these are like-minded persons. They want to be in your space. You can make a lot of friends. Somebody can call you and say, I like who you are. I like your confidence. I think that you have something good in you. You're not proud. I see it's confidence, and the way you carry yourself, I like it. And you yourself, it helps you, because you can build bridges with others. Somebody may think that you don't like him or her, but over a period, if a person feels like, no, that's not true. I think that I misread his, actions. I should go back. Now let's switch to the other side of the coin, which is that if you don't manage pride well, it can also be misconstrued. For the first time you are coming into a relationship with someone, your sense of dignity could be seen as a threat. And such persons are people with complexes and sense of inferiority. That sense is deep in them. And if you are the type who moderately carry yourself that way, you will sense that this person feels threatened by your presence. And if you're a lover, as I am, I will get close into the person's life. I would rather come closer to you, because I sense that you feel very much afraid in seeing that I'm confident and that I will share my thoughts with you, but I respect you. So then I want to break the barrier and come close to you. I wouldn't want you to, I'm not coming to tell you that, please don't see me in that light. But by breaking that barrier, it should send you a certain sense of intuitive response that I'm trying to build a relationship with you. So sometimes people can misread your actions. The second thing is that, and that is a caution I gave, that because healthy pride is about the sense of worth you have about yourself, full stop. But when we put a comma and we continue,
we're into punctuation business. We're doing punctuation business.
So when the mechanics gets in, and I said, let's play mechanics. And then I said, then you say, well, I'm better than.
Then you've tripped.
You've tripped. You've gone far.
Yeah.
And that can happen. Maybe somebody really triggered that by a comment. If you did not mean to carry yourself that way, you can always go and apologize.
Yeah.
I'm sorry for what I did. Others may not. It's okay. And watch it. Arrogant people will never say sorry. Never. So it's one of my tasks as a psychologist. One of the things I look for in distinguishing between people who truly made a mistake and those who are arrogant is their willingness to say, for once, let somebody soil my dignity by going to him and say, I'm sorry. Because it's, to a certain degree, a soiling of your dignity. But I want to say, I'm sorry. It's a dent. And you didn't want the person to know that, are you that cheap? But it's okay. Because that's a human being. I want to just repair that relationship. That's somebody who has a healthy pride. The ability to say, I'm sorry. So it can bring people into your space. You can attract very good persons who have very good thoughts about you. You can make more friends. On the other side too, if you don't manage it well, you can slip into arrogance. And people may not want to be in your company.
Let's stick with the I'm sorry a bit, because it's a big thing around pride and arrogance, right? Tell me a little bit more about how we apologize and how that shows up, right? Because I experience different people and how they apologize. How can you tell when an apology is a genuine apology and one isn't? So that's one question.
Yeah.
And then we had dream. I'm asking you the wrong questions of the carpet.
Your questions are very interesting and deep. I mean, I think it's pushing me into certain areas that I'm quite opinionated about.
Good.
So let's first and foremost, an apology is a certain mindset that I am aware that an error occurred in the way I related with someone, and I would want to repair that particular relationship. So apology is a cognitive awareness, is a consciousness. Apology is never a spiritual sensation. It's a rational awareness. Okay? There's something came on me.
Sensation.
And I must go and know. It's a rational awareness.
It's not spirit-led.
It's a rational awareness. We as human beings are rational. So, and the interesting thing is this. Now, when people have a sense of wanting to apologize, it is a mark of their sense of maturity and emotional intelligence, that they want to just repair a broken relationship, a relationship that has been affected. But the art or the science of apology is also an art. To say it's an art simply means that it must be strategically and carefully organized and delivered.
So it's not sorry.
I don't know. Sorry. So what happened the last time? I'm okay. I mean, we are human beings. And I'll tell you some of the things I've seen about some of the rough, bush-like, I'm like, uncivilized rendition of apology I've ever seen in my life. Well, I came telling you that we are human beings. What happened last night? I'm sorry. Okay, I'm sorry. Then he walks away. Or two, hey, what is it? So because of what happened yesterday, okay, I'm sorry. Or three, oh, you should thank God that I've even come to ask you for an apology. Some people will not do it. So thank God I have even come. This is just uncivilized. You don't have the
There's
skill.
no actual remorse there.
You don't have the skill. First and foremost, a bit of how to render an apology. Number one, admit that something erroneously happened and that you take full responsibility. Yesterday, and you have to state what happened. it helps the person to appreciate that you were aware and you are not aware of what happened. That's why you are rendering apology. Yesterday, when I was with you, I used a wrong word. I said this, and I think upon reflection, it's wrong. I take full responsibility. That's the first thing. So, state the error, then accept full responsibility. Number 3, request the person for forgiveness. Please, find a place in your heart to forgive me. Number 4, assure the person that you will not repeat that again.
And number 5, there should be no more action.
Oh my goodness. So assure the person.
Look at me numbering it for you.
This will not happen again. And then give the person room to get back to you.
Yeah.
Now, there are people who, after this, will say, yeah, so now you're back. Give me 5. No. Take your time. Ekuya. When people are hurt, don't
Rush them.
And don't also be hypocritical to feel that this is something they should be able to manage. Look, human relationship is a very difficult thing to learn to manage. Because the last time you did this, the person was not hurt. Today you did the same thing, the person is hurt. There is that kind of complexity about human behavior. And so when people are hurt, give them the benefit of the doubt and find out what did go wrong. Number 2, allow them space to grieve. A relationship is broken. A certain kind of, what's the word? A certain kind of friendliness is marred. And it must take them a bit of time to just repair it. Please respect that. But it'll be good to occasionally check on them. Hello, Ekuya, how are you? I hope you're fine. Just checking up on you. Don't state again. You are giving the person room to heal. The next couple of days, 2-3 days, call again. Hey, girl, just checking up. I hope you're fine. Is it okay? Is there anything I should know? Oh, I'm fine. I'll be fine. I'll call you. That's fine. As a rule of thumb, after calling them 3 times, it's okay to relax and wait for them to process
their feelings,
and then
how they want to proceed, and what they want the relationship to be.
Exactly. And they can start slowly. They may not, you may not get the relationship completely restored. They may start 5%, then they go to 10%, 20%, 30%. You may struggle to get them 100%. You may not get there. It's okay. You have learned your lesson. You've learned your lesson. So apology is an art.
Yeah.
And we must learn it. And then the person who is also offended, you can also exude a certain level of arrogance.
By holding on.
By
being angry.
I don't understand why you did this. Did you die? Did you shed blood? Look, people make mistakes. When people have genuinely apologized, respect it, and begin to process the apology and release them.
Yeah.
Because if you hold on to that, you kill yourself.
And you mar the relationship.
Exactly. Yeah. There are minor elevations in your blood pressure you may not see. You go to bed, you can't sleep. You're rolling from one end to the other. You are not getting good sleep, your head is aching. You're hurting yourself. Let it go. You can be arrogant in your hurt. And I've seen people like that. They are so hurt, they are not ready to let go. No. They don't want to see it in a year, 2, 3, and they are holding on. You are arrogant. You are arrogant. Hey, sister, bro, you are arrogant. Change, right? So you can be arrogant in your own head, and people are hurting. They are depressed. They have anxiety disorders. Some have developed serious mental health conditions because of that. They can let go. So if you are also hurt, don't forget that human beings are liable to mistakes, and you are also liable to make mistakes. So please let it go and give people the benefit of the doubt that I can also make a mistake and I'll need somebody's forgiveness.
Cool. Going back to that corner that we were in, I like what we've talked about with apologizing, because I think that pride and arrogance, a big symbol of it is our ability to acknowledge our mistakes and apologize, right? And you teaching us how to do it and how to even navigate this. And this is for both your personal relationships with your parents, with your marriages, your partners, and so on. With even at the workplace, this applies there, right?
Exactly.
But as we were in that corner talking, we talked a little bit about humility, where you talked about people can fake a certain sense of humility or remorse to get what they want, right? Or pain. So it was around when you were being punished or you were being beaten. If you cried, it means, that means they regret their actions, right? I want us to talk a little bit about the relationship between pride and arrogance and humility. In our culture, I think we are forced to have a false sense of humility. I have made a bold statement that the internet will come for me from. What are your thoughts?
So first and foremost, humility is not the readiness to be subverted and controlled by others. Humility is not selling yourself as a slave for others to mishandle you. Humility is genuineness in your attitude of who you are and how you want others to relate with you. Genuineness of your attitude of who you are and how you want others to relate with you. You may find others expressing humility by a certain sense of docility. They are so docile. When you ask them to bring this, they will bring it, they won't challenge you. Don't look down on them. That's how they express their humility. That's how they've been raised in your culture. And this is not to spite any ethnic group in Ghana. But there are some ethnic groups in Ghana. That's how they express humility. When you are talking to them, they are looking down, they are bowing. That's how they've been raised. There's nothing wrong with that. They are not, excuse my language, but they're not talking to animals. They're talking to human beings. So if they feel like bowing, it's okay. I mean, I've had friends from other cultures beyond Ghana. I'm talking to them. I'm looking at them and they're looking down.
They're not looking you in the eye.
No. And they are bowing down. That is their cultural expression of humility. Now, we should not make a mistake by imposing Western category on how humility is expressed on our ancestors. No. I mean, that's how you look at Japanese culture, for example. The way they express themselves. I mean, they often are talking, it's monosyllabic, one word at a time. They're quiet. They may look elsewhere. Okay, and if you meet an elderly person, you bow.
Yes.
That's how they express themselves. So if someone
it doesn't mean they're stupid. It doesn't mean they're arrogant. It doesn't mean anything.
No.
It's just
a certain genuineness of attitude.
Yes.
In trying to just express themselves. So what we need to understand, the others, and what we need to understand is that if you find someone expressing himself within the cultural categories of humility, don't be too quick to say, what is this? Be careful.
Because they might actually not be humble.
Exactly. They're just carrying themselves by the dictates of certain social norms. So be careful. Enjoy it while it lasts. And stop being arrogant and stop this kind of thing. They don't talk that. That's wrong. Now, the other part of the expression of humility is that unlike what you expect from your culture, and I know that a lot of Ghanaians have had this culture shock when they get into any Western context, and then they request of anything, and the person is very forward. I'm sorry, I can't help. And yet is maybe grimacing or smiling. And he's wondering, what? He's telling me, what can I say? It's a good thing. But that's their culture. They may come again and say, Joseph, but I have some time tomorrow. If you think you
but I can't do it now.
I can do it now. And then you get angry. No, I don't need you again. Because in your culture, any solicitation that is made must elicit an affirmative response. It's not so in other cultures. And so people are surprised. And it's the first cultural shock they get. That is not an expression of arrogance. The person may have that humble attitude. But that's how they express themselves. So actually, humility is a state of a person's heart.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Do you think that pride suffers for humility to exist? So do you lose your pride for humility to be present? Your self-worth?
I don't think so.
You don't think so?
I don't think so. You still can have a sense of pride, but you are still very humble.
Yes.
If I have a sense of dignity and I'm competent, I thank God for my life, yes, for how far I have come. The ravages of life, the challenges of life, the vicissitudes of life. I've gone through challenges, and yet I have gone through all of this and survived. And I thank God. I'm very confident of my life. So when you meet me, that's how I carry myself. I don't think that I am arrogant.
The two can live together.
Exactly.
Yes. I think that's what I wanted to establish.
Exactly. So people can have a sense of pride, but they are very humble. They are not arrogant. Yeah. So it's your problem if you meet people all the time and you have turned yourself into an investigative assessor. When you meet people, this one is proud, this one is arrogant, you two, who are you? Who are you? It's
interesting you asked that question, because that's one of the questions we're going to talk about.
Who are you?
So maybe we should jump to that. And let's jump to that, because that's a good segue into it. How do we recognize pride in ourselves? How do you know? When you sit down and I call it the board meeting with yourself. When you have the board meeting with yourself and you're saying, yeah, what am I like? Who am I? This is how people respond to me. This is how people act towards me. And you are evaluating yourself. How do you identify pride in yourself? I don't want us to talk about identifying pride in others, because I wonder we can do it.
Are you talking about positive pride now, or are you talking about it?
Negative.
Yeah, so we're looking at arrogant, negative.
Yeah,
okay.
Arrogance.
All right. So, Ikuya, one of the essential elements of being a human being is the ability to introspect. And to introspect simply means that you are able to reflect on your own self. In some sense, some people call it metacognition, the ability to think about why you think about the way you think. So, if you ask yourself, why do I think about the way I think? Mm-hmm. So, you're reflecting. The first sign of arrogance is when you feel or you sense that it's extremely difficult for you to appreciate that anytime you engage in this self-introspection, you hit a wall. You don't want to continue. It's like if you feel scared about your own thoughts about yourself, that's the first sign that something is wrong. Because you see, when you are introspecting, there is no second or third party
to keep it going.
Yes, it's about you and yourself. Yeah. You are assessing yourself. So if you are afraid of your own self, then there is a problem. You must not be afraid of your own self. That's the first sign. The second sign of arrogance is when you cannot accept what people tell you
about yourself.
Like, no matter what they say,
no matter how nicely
how
they say
nice
it,
or how bad, something could be in there that is not too good about yourself, and that may resonate with your experience and your awareness that I think I need to work on this one. And you must be able to embrace it. If you keep on outrightly rejecting, and let me tell you, Akuya, you don't have enemies all the time. That's the third thing. If you overgeneralize that anybody who makes comment about your life is an enemy, you are arrogant. Your life is not about working with enemies. There are others who love you.
Feedback is a gift.
Wonderful. They care about you. They want to tell you that I've seen ABC. Can you work on that?
And even if they don't care about you, it's for you to stop and reflect and say, is there any truth in this? And if there's truth, what are the actions I need to take to remedy this?
Because you must have what I call growth mindset.
A growth mindset.
You must be able to say, I have had self-reflection. I've seen blind spots in my life. I want to rule out certain remedial processes to address them. Okay? Then the fourth thing is that if you become extremely sensitive to certain comments, you call it hypersensitivity, and you cannot embrace correction. The slightest thing, no. You have to challenge yourself to work on those things. There may be something hiding in there that you must work on. I keep telling my proteges that when I started off life with a certain level of anger, I'm choleric. And my choler was so strong.
It was 90 and whatever else was there.
Maybe 100. I mean, I was an alpha choler. I'll tell friends that my wife is a pro and pro max and pro max. I was.
So how did she manage?
Oh my goodness! But when I was growing up, it was my dad. He was not an educated man, but my dad had a sense of reflection. There are days he'll be sitting and he's reflecting, he's thinking. And I was the last one, so I learned that a lot. I'll see him sitting quietly, sometimes singing songs, and I'll go and sit and I picked up that. So one day, he said, son, this behavior, this thing you have will be a problem. You need to work on it. I was 14 years. So when I was growing 15, I always was just asking myself questions. That is introspection. If you cannot, it becomes a problem. Let me explain 3 words. We sometimes use them wrongly. The first is temperament. The second is character. And the third is personality. Your temperament is often what you've been born with. It's a trait. It's an inborn trait. So you may not be able to change your temperament fully. You can alter it a little bit because that's you. Your character is the acquisition of certain attribute as a result of your exposure to certain spaces through education, church, parenting.
Internal.
That's it.
Yeah.
What comes out, the product is character. So character, if you like, character is temperament strained or stretched. Whatever stretches your temperament will produce a character. Your personality is the impression people have about you. So it's the first time I'm meeting Ikuya. What you are showing me now is your personality I'm seeing. I haven't yet seen your temperament. I haven't yet seen your character. But the personality can give me vestiges
of what the character
exactly of
and what
would be the
temperament.
character of this young woman. What would be her temperament? What we need in our work and our relation with the others, as far as this particular topic is concerned, is character. That is how people assess us. After everything, after knowing your personality, I throw that away. Knowing that you are choleric, just get that, because we are all born with tendencies. But how have I worked on those tendencies? That's where character is. And that's where we place this topic of arrogance and pride.
Interesting. 2 more questions and we wrap it up because I'm being signaled left, right, and center. When you're arrogant, I believe that it potentially has different limitations for you. It could limit your ability to learn. And you talked about a growth mindset, and the opposite of that is having a fixed mindset, isn't it? Because
Exactly.
a growth mindset is open to new ideas and new thinking and so on. Where a fixed mindset is almost, fixed and constrained and it's not open to new ideas and things, that there's only one way of doing things and that's the only way you can do things, right? It would be good to just kind of quickly, if you have a list off the top of your head, maybe 3 or 4 things that being arrogant prevents you from doing.
Okay. So first is that you cannot learn and you cannot grow. Okay. Learning is the fuel for growth.
Okay.
And human beings are born into a learning environment. We acquire knowledge, which is whatever you acquire is information. The information gives you something that organizes itself into what we call knowledge. And when you act on the knowledge, we say you are wise. So if you are arrogant, you are denied of this because you will not be able to learn. The second thing is that it restricts your social space.
Relationships.
It affects it. People are moving away from you. And you know that we live in a social world. Your next level of help could come from person A. But because you are arrogant, your social space is limited. If you see the opportunities that come the way of humble people, you'll be amazed. Everybody is thinking about something good about them. So if you are arrogant, you limit your social space. And once your social space of relationship is limited, it also limits your ability to access resources and support systems. And then number 4, it just bloats your inferiority. You already have a self-worth issue that is underlying that sense of arrogance. And so that is just blown over the roof. Everybody can see it.
Except you.
and once that happens, then there's a problem. Yeah. Once you don't have that awareness that I have a problem, then you have a problem. Somebody says that he's so arrogant such that when he is coming, you're doing the signboard. But the way he walks and the way he talks. The 4th is that even your communicative patterns, communicative skills are hampered. You don't even know how to talk. Because once you open your mouth, somebody will say, flies are flying left and right. Because you can talk well. And I can tell you that being arrogant can even lead to developing a mental illness. Because the impact of all of this
puts you in a certain box.
Exactly.
It isolates you.
It's a very stressful experience.
Yeah.
You experience stress. Stress is your body's response to demands.
Yeah.
So a certain demand is placed on you. Wherever you go, you feel like, what is all this? What have I done wrong? I mean, why? That's the point. So arrogance can kill. In that negative sense, can destroy you. But if you, and of course, people will not be arrogant in only in a few situations, for example, abusive situations that people may be arrogant and can be helpful. But generally, those who are arrogant and will not want to work on it, you are on a dark path. And I can tell you that you would have a serious issue ahead of your life. Better think of working on yourself.
So going into better think before on working on yourself. In Proverbs, the Bible talks about pride going before destruction or a fall, and how haughtiness, is what leads to a fall. So we are avoiding this fall actively. 2-3 ways.
First, self-awareness. Know yourself. Is it Socrates who said that unexamined life is not worth living? Know yourself. Self-awareness is one of the critical elements of emotional intelligence. You know yourself. I have a friend. When we engage in conversation and he sees that this is leading somewhere, he will say, it's okay. He will cut it. That is self-awareness. So know what triggers that kind of behavior, that kind of reaction. Self-awareness. The second thing is that you also must challenge yourself. So we call something self-instruction. Don't use the mirror only for dressing up. Stand in the mirror and talk to yourself. Hey, Ikuya, you need to work on this. You need to work on that. This, I think you are doing well. Pat yourself at the back. And then tell yourself that this one, I think you must push a little bit. Challenge yourself. See that goal as reachable, that I can get here, and this way I want to be. Don't feel comfortable in where you feel you are, but challenge yourself. The third thing is that invite feedback. You have friends around you who are talking to you about, Kofi, I think that this one, so what do you think is the problem? What do you think you can do? Feedback can bring you a lot of good. Then the fourth thing is that if you have tried all of this and it's not working, please talk to a therapist. Therapists can help you put this whole thing into perspective. Sometimes your arrogance is actually what we call a defense mechanism. It's your mind's babyish way of managing its own challenges, whereas there are mature ways of dealing with it. Yeah. So why don't you talk to a therapist to put this in perspective and help you address it? These are some of the things you can do to help yourself. Now
make you a cocktail, because that's the next thing. Is there anything you can't drink? Is there anything in particular you avoid?
I drink everything except what is alcoholic?
Okay, that's fine. This should go in charge. To what I refer to as the fun part of this, because we've been talking for like an hour and a half. The episodes keep getting longer. Cocktails. And all you're required to do is to taste it and tell me 2 things that are in it. We can see ice, so you can't tell me there's ice in it.
Okay.
So taste it, because that's a trick. Everybody starts off, ice. So taste it, and then tell me what's in it.
Okay.
Cheers. Stir it up.
All right. All right. I think I know 2 things.
Wow. Let's see.
At least in this. One is a bit of sugar. The second is something from coconut.
You got the coconut right.
Okay.
I'm giving you a fist bump.
Oh, goodness.
You got the coconut right. And then obviously sugar, right?
Yeah, because
so it's a wrap, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a wrap. So I got it. Oh, goodness.
Yeah. All right.